Hello everyone, and today I'm giving you two new movie reviews for you guys today, and they are of Eternals, Marvel's The Eternals, or The Eternals. I think it's just Eternals, and No Time to Die, and yeah, let's do this. And my first review, guys, today is of Eternals, and Eternals is the I think it's the 25th MCU movie, and basically this movie. The basic synopsis of this film is basically a bunch of these extraterrestrial species essentially are sent to Earth and not really forced to intervene, but to watch and see how humans grow and evolve, and to see if they're essentially a worthy species or not, and how the Eternals essentially conflict with each other, and how the planet has this weird species that is coming out of it that they're also opposing against. I don't know if I want to go too deep into the film. And here's the thing. Overall, I enjoy Eternals overall okay. Is it the creme de la creme? Is it the best of the best of the MCU has to offer? No. It won't crack the top 13 for me. It certainly won't. For me, it won't crack the top half of the series. It seems like, in my opinion, it seems like my top best of the best of the MCU movies will not be topped. But do I not like this as much as something like the first Thor movie or Captain Marvel? Almost no. It's like, is it great? It's so weird to frame it. And it's really weird because the director of the film, Chloe Zhao, basically brings this larger-than-life and breadth and really showing this to the film, and it understands that these sentients, these weird AI sentient beings, are trying to have these human revelations while confronting each other on this planet, while realizing the inner conflictions of their own agenda and how they're being programmed to see the humans on this earth. What is so frustrating about this movie is that the movie, I felt like, should have had a little bit more glee to it, a little bit more life, a little bit more energy to it. Like when I was in the theater, I expected this. I wasn't expecting. I expected the score to be big and thematic and everything, but I get it for the most part, because these are like very much like sentient beings. Like they're not really programmed to have emotions, kind of like the Klingons in Star Trek or like the other species that you see in Captain Marvel or whatever. But it's like I get they're not meant to have those human expressions and everything, but the movie comes across so flat and such little sense of life and energy or anything to it. Like, it's technically it's a marvel. It's one of the most astounding, it's one of the best looking MCU movies. Like, pure on the cinematography wise, the visual effects wise. I won't say visual effects, but I mean like just the framing, the shots, like everything within. Looks like the classic phrase, every painting is worth 1,000 words. And this movie really does it well to such an extent, but it thematically doesn't understand the importance of its undertone, of the undertones and the themes, which I really liked and admired. But the film doesn't really know how to sell it on such a level to where it's trying to let the characters understand the thematic message, or at least let it come across through the performances. Like, everyone plays the roles in such a simple, matter-of-fact way, where it feels really flat. Like, Chloe Zhao brings this really average dullness, where she should have this beautiful, grandiose feeling. Like, this should have had the same sense of weight and beauty and togetherness as, you know, something like the Avengers, which I understand. There's two different things, but when you give the species of like the Eternals, and they're trying to go through their own, like, midlife crisis within the group, and having had discovering the schism and everything, and it's really difficult to understand how these characters are having such an epiphany when they're not really giving that strong of a performance. Like, everyone plays them all fine. I liked everyone. I found Angelina Jolie and I'm sorry, I'm looking it up. Like, the people who really stood out for me were Angelina Jolie, Gemma Chan, and Barry Keoghan. I thought they were the most investing characters. But there's also performances like Richard Madden and Selma Hayek, who felt like they were getting short staff. And I personally found the character of Sprite to be shockingly getting on my nerves. Like, the character's sense of character own development felt too little too late, and thematically, and the character had such little going for her in the first place that when she was getting through her arc, and granted, I'm not giving too much away here, but her arc compared to everyone else's was given too late in the film, and her performance was just so flat and off-putting that I was just like, no, I outright don't like her character. She had nothing to offer. She was just a negative. She just had nothing but a negative attitude and perspective on everything. And seeing how they went through basically human history, how they saw the species evolve into like what they saw like within their history. Because in the movie it shows like them during the Aztec era, ancient Egypt, Babylon, and it understood what the humans were going through with like the rise and fall of Babylon, or at least conquest or the conquered or be conquered aspect of, like, you know, the era of Hernan Cortez being destroying the Incas and all that era. But it failed to understand the real conflicts. Like, it knew what it was going for. It understood what it wanted, but it doesn't have a great execution. The way it looks, just on a pure framing perspective, as I said before, is good enough. Is quite nice, I thought. But the visual effects were mostly mixed. There's one shot of an airplane, which granted is kind of like just a standard shot, which I was shocked at how bad it looked. Like, the rest of the movie had mostly good effects. There's like one shot of an airplane, as I said. I have no reason why they dropped it that bad. That's one of the worst visual effects I've seen in any of the MC movies. And judging by this movie's standard of how far we've come since Iron Man back in 2008, that felt like it was just dropping the ball to such an extent. And I feel like a big problem I have with this film overall is felt like it just going so uniquely out of its own unique way that I felt like they really doesn't really know how to sit with him properly. Like, I liked how the fact, what I do like about this movie is that it does try not to give too much emphasis towards other MCU references. By the way, whenever it does, those references are really distracting, and they don't really add not much at all. In fact, they just pull you entirely out of the experience. Like, there's a scene where they're talking about, is like, well, why don't you interfere with Thanos? And a moment like that, it's expected, it's understandable. But there's moments where they do reference, like, Captain America, and I'm just kind of, like, rolling my eyes, and it just doesn't add much narratively or characterly. And I'm just kind of, not. Like, the film tries, but its ambition doesn't really lead all that great to an overall understanding of how it represents its known material. Like, a big problem I have, especially a great dichotomy between this film and Shang-Chi, is that Shang-Chi, in my opinion, felt so formulaic, where this film feels so weirdly alien that it doesn't really sit properly all that well within the MCU. It feels like an awkward black sheep. But unlike Iron Man 2 or the first 1 and 2 Thor movies, is that those films may be flawed with all the rights, but they still felt like MCU movies. It's like the weird difference I have within the Star Wars prequels and the sequels. The prequels are hella messy. The first two aren't even good movies, but I'll defend them because they at least felt like they were Star Wars movies, where the sequel trilogy felt like Disney movies, and there's a big crucial difference there. Shang-Chi, for all the strengths and weaknesses, felt like, in my view, like a very formulaic MCU movie. But at least stuck to his guns and knew it works well for an MCU movie. And knew how to deliver on the action and on the side characters. Where in this movie, it felt so much more on plot and character, but it was just big and vapid, but incredibly pretentious, and it didn't really know what I was going to say it didn't know what it was going for. I apologize for that. It does know what it's going for, but it felt like it just completely overshot it, and it made it so much more ethereal and big. Like, in my opinion, this is the MCU's equivalent of Prometheus. Technically, it's a Marvel. Its template, its framing, its sense of scope is well done enough, but it's also one of those films where I think about it more, and it just kind of decreases. It's like the problems only rise more and more and more and more and more. The more I think about it, it has much more flaws than strengths. And though I do really admire that, I respect the strengths in this movie, how it does try not to stick too much to the MCU's formula, and how it really is trying to be a lot more ambitious and clever, but it feels more disappointing than Shang-Chi. Where Shang-Chi might be a very stale by the numbers MCU movie, at least knew how to deliver on side characters and action in the last third act. It felt like it meant something to a greater narrative. Even if that was some bland dragons fighting, at least it looked aesthetically cool and a lot more appealing to the eye than this film. So, yeah. I think I might shock some people by saying that, in my opinion, of the 3 MCU movies this year, my favorite's kind of Black Widow. But that's not saying much. I don't love any of the 3 freaking MCU movies that we got this year. Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and Eternals. Eternals, the most promising, the most ambitious, but the most disappointing. Black Widow, overall decent action thriller, and overall design, but as an MCU movie, it just doesn't do much. Shang-Chi, formulaic as hell, but at least still works within the MCU formula of knowing what to do. So for me, I'm just kind of like, what do I choose? I guess for me, out of the 3, probably Shang-Chi, but that's not saying much. I don't love Shang-Chi as much as everyone else does. Overall, but aside from its comparisons to the other films, Eternals is large. At the least, I really do like the fact that the movie is trying so hard to not try to be bogged down by the rules of the MCU. I admire more of the film's strengths rather than like I admire the strengths, but I feel like I'm just saying like it's promising enough. Overall, it kind of does fall short. Granted, I like the cast; they were fine. The music was okay, though I wish I had like the greater impact of overall. But in the end, Shang-Chi, I hate to say it, it is disappointing. It is a middle to bottom tier MCU movie, and in my opinion, it is a bad movie. Overall, yeah, I'm shocked. I'm gonna give Shang-Chi, oh not Shang-Chi, god damn it. I'm gonna give the Eternals a 4.5 out of 10. Overall, that's my rating, everyone. I do hope you joined my review. Till then, peace out.